All right, it is 5:30, and I will call this policy committee meeting to order. Ms. Shope, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Megan Miller is unavailable to join us this evening. Greg Schneider,
Present.
Amy Levy.
Here.
I'll
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Right. Thank you. And just a note to all present and anyone viewing, there is a special meeting beginning at 7, so we will wrap this meeting at 6:45 to allow committee members the opportunity to transition to our next meeting. We have a very robust schedule, so we'll go ahead and jump right in. Because we look at policies and grouping before we make any decisions, we'll look at policies 342, 342.10, 342.10 Rule 1. All right. Committee Member Schneider, we'll go ahead and get started with policy 342.
Point of order. I didn't hear a vote on the agenda, and you also need to do minutes. Sorry.
No, thank you. I'm so excited to get to our schedule. There is a motion to approve the agenda by Board Member Schneider, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, I will provide a second. Since Ms. Miller is not here, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion passes unanimously, and we also have minutes from our July 5th meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
All right, I will provide a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Shope. All right, policy 342, special and alternative instruction programs. This is a brief one, so we'll just take one policy at a time. Board Member Schneider, any questions or edits?
I would like to add to the end of that paragraph, attaining a high school diploma and preparing for college and career ready.
Okay. To that point, the note that I made, I highlighted that last sentence, and anyone who's watching at home, it states each program should have a goal to support students' academic achievement for the purpose of attaining a high school diploma. And my note is, do we want to include language that speaks to our commitment to the whole child and is aligned with our strategic plan? Is that in the same vein of what you're referring
correct.
to? And I pulled up priority 3, whole child. It's brief, so I'll go ahead and read it. So the school district of Beloit honors the whole child through our focus on student achievement, social emotional well-being, and health and wellness, to allow all students to thrive, reach their greatest potential, and demonstrate qualities found within our portrait of a graduate. Would the administration like to amend that last sentence to speak to our goals beyond just academic achievement, and again, prioritizing the whole child?
I support that. It supports another policy, so it all rolls together for me, if that's what you want to add.
Okay. I'm just looking at the wording to see what may work best. Okay, so let's keep it simple. Is the administration okay if we just really use the language from priority 3, so it would read, each program should have as a goal to honor the whole child through our focus on student achievement, social emotional well-being, the part that I just added. And do you also want to end with the portrait of a graduate, or do you believe that that may be dated to go in policy? Should we omit that?
I think we should keep with high school diploma in the end, because that's what they're going to receive.
Okay. And Ms. Shope, I know this is kind of on the fly, so I'll go back and read it. So that last sentence will read, each program should have as a goal to honor the whole child through our focus on, let me know when you're ready, student achievement, social emotional well-being, and health and wellness, to allow all students to thrive, reach their greatest potential, and obtain a high school diploma. Is that okay with the administration?
I'm sorry, and receive a high school diploma. And receive your term.
Attain,
Okay,
just sticking
all right.
with the language
All right,
that's
all right.
already there. Is that okay? You okay with that, Board Member Schneider?
That is good.
Social emotional well-being and health and wellness to allow all students to thrive. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Shope, do you need me to repeat anything? All right, perfect. So that brings us to policy 342.10, homeless education program. Board Member Schneider, before I yield the floor to you, I just wanted to start with this. I believe that it's important to use person-first language and not have the experience of homeless be your identifying marker. So I would be much more comfortable instead of homeless education program, and we reference several times throughout this policy and others, homeless children/youth. So for the title, I am recommending education program for students experiencing homelessness. And then wherever, and there's lots of places, hopefully we'll catch all of them, wherever it currently states homeless children/youth, we rewrite that to children/youth experiencing homelessness. Is the administration and Board Member Schneider, are you okay with that change?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So with that as the context, and Ms. Shope, I think I highlighted all of them, but I'll go through. We'll take this one page at a time because there's some length to it. Board Member Schneider, that first page, any edits or questions?
With those changes, no.
Okay, I have a couple. So again, that title we are proposing would be Education Program for Students Experiencing Homelessness. That first sentence will be changing homeless children/youth to children/youth experiencing homelessness. As we jump forward to actually the next policy, it describes what the LEA agent is, but we're using the term in this policy. So let me ask this of the administration. Are you okay with moving the information from actually the next policy, 342.10 Rule 1? It's page 3 that outlines not only who the LEA liaison is, but the roles and responsibilities. Do you believe it's appropriate to move that information from the page 3 of the next policy to this policy since we're discussing the LEA? Does that make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
So on page 3 of that next policy, would you
Yep.
just put it underneath where it says local education agency liaison, underneath there, just that paragraph, cut and paste over there?
So here's what I'm proposing. At first, when I reviewed the next policy, my notes were to take local education agency, LEA liaison, and those 12 points under it, and actually start that policy with it. But then when I looked back at this policy, we're already talking about a LEA. So it may make sense to take that header and the 12 items under it and remove it from 342.10 Rule 1 and add that to 342.10, unless there's an objection.
Or do you want to just put it all in this? I do see what you're doing. But would it benefit us just to put it all in one policy? I'm just asking that.
So that's actually going to be my recommendations as we move forward with some other policies. But with this one, I think there's enough information to have a base at 342.10. And then I really think that 342.10 Rule 1 does lay out guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the LEA is explained in the second policy, as you stated. So
Right.
moving it to the 310, I wouldn't mind. My
Okay.
thoughts went to what I just got you saying.
Yeah, I don't think we need to collapse the full Rule 1 into the policy, but I do think that would be appropriate for other policies, which we'll pace ourselves, we'll get to. So Ms. Shope, it doesn't sound like there are any objections. What we're going to do is take the information, then the LEA, so that's the header and the 12 points under it from page 3 of policy 342.10, rule 1. And we'll actually put that, so you'll have that opening paragraph, the school district of Beloit will ensure. And then right under that opening paragraph, that's 4 lines, we'll have the information from the next policy, page 3. Does that make sense? No, after. Yep. And then we're dropping that in, and then it'll pick up with the local education agency liaison, because once it's explained, then we can go on to add that other information. I do have a minor edit, though, so the paragraph that starts the local education agency liaison, and then it has LEA. That LEA needs to be moved between agency and liaison, and just for consistency, everywhere else in the policy set, liaison is lowercase. And then let me know if I'm going too fast.
Can I clarify? where
Please.
we're putting the stuff from the rule?
From page 3.
Yeah, is it
Yep.
before or after the second paragraph of 342.10?
It's going right above the second paragraph. Yep, no problem. And then let me know when you're ready for me to continue.
Okay, and you want liaison lowercase?
Lowercase, so it's consistent. And then LEA needs to be moved between agency and liaison. All right. And then towards the end of that sentence, we use homeless students again. So if we can change that to students experiencing homelessness. And then again, it says, enroll in school and have the opportunity to succeed academically. Going back to that whole child reference, do we want to expand that beyond just succeeding academically? And it doesn't have to be as detailed because we already changed the previous policy. But would the administration like to edit any of that wording?
We could add the back end to attaining a high school diploma if you'd like, or we could just take the same whole child information from the previous one.
Well,
It's not what we're.
could we find somewhere in the middle? Because I think the intention is all of the stuff we laid out for whole child, but I don't want to be repetitive in each policy. So is there something brief that we can put that just speaks to, we want our students to be successful and not just limit to academically?
Yeah, we can go back and wordsmith it.
Can we do that now?
Oh, if you want to. I don't know if it was,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll say, the district school. Is this in the second paragraph?
Yeah, yep, as it appears on the page now. And it doesn't have to be too deep.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be limited to academically.
And,
How about let me see, to thrive, okay, so it would be the opportunity to thrive socially, emotionally, and academically.
I'm good. Everyone else okay with that?
I was gonna
Sounds
say
good.
and socially.
All
emotionally.
right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So Ms. Shope, so the opportunity to thrive socially, emotionally, and academically. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Shope, did you get that? Perfect. All right, and then again, that next paragraph starts with homeless students, so we'll edit that. And then just one quick thing, that same paragraph, it says the district school attendance area policy shall not be applied, and that actual policy is 432. Could we add that as a cross-reference? Because it's 432 school attendance areas, since we're saying they won't be applied, but we're not really explaining what those are. So if we could cross-reference that policy at the end, I think that would be helpful. And again, that's policy 432. All right, last call for any edits on 342.10, education programs for students experiencing homelessness.
Again, the second paragraph, the beginning of the second line just says homeless families. And can we change that to families experiencing homelessness?
Yep, thank you. All right, let's move on to policy 342.10, Rule 1. We'll take this one page at a time. Board Member Schneider, any edits or questions for that first page?
No questions, but again, making sure that we have person-first language throughout the whole.
Yeah, I think I
Policy.
highlighted most of them, but follow along with me and please catch me if I miss anything. So again, my recommendation for the title is Education Program Guidelines for Students Experiencing Homelessness. We already made the change with the page 3 information, so that, and then at the beginning, the header homeless child/youth, so we'll change that. And then, I don't know if this is extremely clear. Let me just read the whole sentence. It says, homeless status shall be determined by the local education agency, LEA liaison, in cooperation with parents. That makes sense. Or in the case of an unaccompanied child youth. So I think the spirit of what it's saying, it'll be determined. The status will be determined by the LEA in cooperation with the parent. Is it also in cooperation with the unaccompanied youth, if that's the case?
Yes, so it could potentially say, in cooperation with the parents, or in the case of an unaccompanied child youth, comma, the student.
Perfect. Everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next paragraph,
Sorry, can
yep.
Ms. Show, did you get that? Well, we switched it from, we put the student first.
No, I think we end it with student.
Yep, that first sentence under child or youth experiencing homeless, that first section, homeless status shall be determined by the local education agency liaison in cooperation with the parents, or in the case of an unaccompanied child or youth,
The student.
the student.
Okay.
You good with that?
Go to that.
Okay. And then the next portion, homeless child youth, will be adjusted. And then I had a question under number 1. So it's speaking to what the term, like homelessness or what that means. So number 1, are temporarily sharing housing of other persons due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or similar reason are living in a motel, hotel, trailer park. Does living in a trailer park, I don't think that means that you are experiencing homelessness, unless there's something I'm missing.
I would be okay striking that.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that, with removing trailer park? Okay,
Well, low income is also associated with. But yeah, we can definitely take it out.
okay. And just a question for clarification. So the part that the administration is recommending that we strike is or are awaiting foster care placement. Why would we omit that?
The phrase awaiting foster care placement was removed from the McKinney-Vento Act in December of 2016. So it's no longer part of the act, that language.
Okay, now I'm just curious, and we can table this in the interest of time unless you immediately know the answer. If a child is awaiting foster care placement, do you know why that's not considered?
I don't know,
Experiencing
but I
homelessness?
can look at why that was changed.
And it's just my curiosity, so no rush.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, I was okay with. Number 3, it talks about substandard housing. Who makes that determination?
That's part of the language from the state.
Okay, but we don't know who makes that determination?
I wouldn't know the answer to that.
It kind of
Okay.
leans back to why would they take out our awaiting foster care placement? But then I started thinking, when I read it, I was thinking, well, just because they're awaiting foster care placement, don't mean they don't have a home.
Well, it depends on where you're awaiting, so I'm sure it's nuanced.
It's more, I see what you're asking, though.
Yeah.
Attaching it to the same thought.
So I always like to review policy. Like if I'm a person reading it, do I understand it? Do I understand it? And does it answer all the questions I need answered? So if this says are living in cars, parks, public spaces, abandoned buildings, substandard housing,
That's subjective.
oh, and I get that, but do we know who makes the determination? Is that the LEA?
I would think so, but
Okay.
again, I still feel like it's kind of
Well,
subjective. It
you
could
also
be.
gotta think, living in unsafe conditions in an abandoned home, I don't know. That's kind of where I started thinking that they were,
You know, and I agree with you, but I'm just wondering who makes the determination. Okay. Number 4, a migratory child/youth. Is there a definition for who is considered a migratory child/youth?
I don't have that right now, but I can certainly get that to you.
Okay. And the main reason I'm asking is because it continues to say a migratory child/youth or an unaccompanied child/youth may be considered homeless or may be considered experiencing homelessness if they meet the above definitions.
So do you see underneath where that was, and it was struck and put underneath number 4? So it made sense when it was underneath number 4, now that you're pointing that out. That was a recommendation by the state to move it into number 4.
Okay, and that's not a
So-
reason to hold up the policy. I'm just,
I see what
if
you're
people
saying.
ask questions, I just want for, our staff to have clarity on the intentionality of the policy so we can best serve our families.
Maybe instead of definition, it should say if they meet the points above. I mean, I don't know, because that's what it's really defining what child or youth homelessness means.
I'm
One-
okay with it as written. I
Okay.
was just, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Under school selection, that first sentence, we just need an apostrophe with youths. And then homeless child youth in that third line will need to be adjusted. And then if we go to the bottom of the page, number 1, homeless child youth will need to be adjusted, and then the line under, a family experiences homelessness, or, yeah. All right, moving on to page 2. Board Member Schneider, any edits or questions?
The first line under number 2, words are repeated at the end of that first sentence. Non-homeless students who live in the.
Yep.
Strike one of those.
And, okay, anything else?
And then again, just modifying the child youth.
Okay. And when I was looking at number 2, is everyone okay if it says, or enroll the student in the public school that serves their current attendance area?
after a 10?
So for number 2, ignore everything that's currently there under number 2, and it'll say, or enroll the student in the public school that serves their current attendance area.
Yes.
Because when we start talking about, okay, so what it currently says or is supposed to say is enroll the student in the public school that non-homeless students who live in the physical attendance area are eligible to attend. That just seems very clunky to me.
Yep.
Could we just say, or enroll the student in the public school that serves their current attendance area?
I wouldn't have no problem. I mean, Missy, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, but
No.
it was just.
You okay with that, Board Member Schneider?
Public
Yep.
school.
Ms. Shope, do you need me to repeat that?
No, but I'm just asking, you want the sentence to start with the word or?
It says or right above the.
Or,
number
and then
two.
it goes to number 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other page for me.
Took me a second to.
Well, this is what the state shared, so Do we want to cross-reference?
I feel like it's still capturing the same
I
idea.
agree, I don't disagree, I'm just,
Yeah.
probably want to check it still with the state, so that it won't have any. So I don't disagree with what you're asking, I just want to check with the state, make sure we all on the same page.
Can you reiterate the sentence one more time, please?
You may read it as it is?
Yeah,
and
nope,
then oh,
what you're recommending.
oh, okay, so, or, and then number 2, enroll the student in the public school that serves their current attendance area.
Got it.
And if we go ahead and pass this through committee, if you find out that the state is like, hold up, just let us know once it comes to first reading, please.
I absolutely will.
Thank you. All right, and then after number 3, there's a clause, and then that second clause, it says homeless parent/guardian, parent/guardians experiencing homelessness. And then right under that, it says the district will provide a written explanation, including a statement regarding the right to appeal if the district sends a child/youth experiencing homelessness. It goes on. To whom is the district providing that written explanation?
Whoever, it's either the parent, the guardian, or the caregiver of the student.
And then since you're bringing that up, what is the difference between a guardian and a caregiver?
So that's a good question. A caregiver has, hang on. I don't want to answer this wrong, but I
No, no, no,
believe
you're
it's, a guardian has physical custody and a caregiver wait a second. Guardian has legal
legal?
custody and a caregiver has physical custody. But I will double.
But they're legally allowed to have that physical
Yes.
custody.
Yep.
We just kind of touch base on that a little bit too, caregiver versus guardian.
Okay.
That's why you're asking that question.
So, okay, and this is just me being curious. Does the caregiver and the guardian, or the caregiver and the parent share legal custody, but the child just happens to be physically placed with one? Because it seems odd to me that I have physical custody, but I may not have legal custody.
So the recommendation of the state was to cross out person who has legal or physical custody of and replace that with caregiver.
All right.
Well, wait.
Just,
That is the
this-
thing,
this
you
is
can't
the-
have physical custody and not legal custody of
Yes, you
an
can.
individual,
Yeah,
of a child.
You can.
Okay.
We have situations,
Yeah, we have
like
situations.
that, that I'm thinking about right now in the district.
so are caregivers allowed legally to make decisions for a child if I don't have legal custody?
If, it all depends on the court order.
There you go. Because in the end of the day, we gotta look at it.
Going down
Okay,
the
so
rabbit
let me ask you, I love policy. Okay, so let me ask you
too,
this. Would it be prudent, somewhere in this policy said, to spell out, because I might not be the only person confused. I think we all get what a parent is.
Sure.
But the distinction between a guardian and a caregiver.
But it all could change. Well, this is the discussion that we have at the school level.
So don't put it in, it's fluid?
It's fluid because the court can say what it want to say.
Yeah,
Or that.
we have all the court records.
Okay, so let me just ask you this. If someone has a question about a caregiver versus a guardian, they can call CAC and someone's gonna be able to explain it to them.
Yes, because they have to fill out a caregiver form with the Central Enrollment Office.
All right,
We have those.
this is informative. Okay.
Happy to be here.
We are on page 2 still of policy 342.10, rule 1. Okay, the paragraph that starts parents/guardians or caregivers of that homeless child/youth, will change that. And then if you go down about 5 lines, it says, the line that starts in pursuant to rights expressly granted to, we'll change that to child/youth expressing homelessness. In the second to the last line in that paragraph, we need an apostrophe for districts, internal transfer policy. Do I need to repeat anything, Ms. Shope? All right, moving on to the portion titled enrollment. Number 2, there is a homeless child/youth that we need to change. Number 3 starts out the same way, so we'll get that adjusted. And then under residency, same thing, right at the beginning. So a child youth experiencing homelessness is a resident if the child is, what does personally present mean? Is that different than regular present? Okay, does anyone oppose to striking personally? All right, perfect. And then if we go to the next sentence, the settle down. The child/youth should be considered a resident when living with a parent, guardian, or caregiver, not solely for school purposes for the participation in extracurricular activities. Now, when I read that, I'm thinking what that means is you can't just use someone's address and come play a sport or be involved in an activity. So I get that we need to state that, but do we do anything to vet that?
There's no way we could, because they'll still be going to school, because you can't play extracurriculars without going to school. So, I'm not sure if there is a way to vet it, to be honest.
So I guess my question is, like, do we require someone brings in a utility bill in the parent or guardian or caregiver's name with that address? We do?
For, if they're homeless, no. They have different requirements for enrollment, and that we'll get to.
Okay. And then that last, it currently says homeless child/youth who do not live. That's actually a repeat from number 3. So can we just strike those last 2 lines?
Well, it's under enrollment versus residency. So,
Oh, it applies to both?
to me, it applies to both.
Okay.
Unless Missy's saying something different. Okay. Yeah.
No, all right, then that makes sense then, thank you. Next page, so this is page number 3, which we have already shifted the bulk of this, but of what remains, Board Member Schneider, do you have any questions or edits?
Just again, under guardianship, the second sentence, it has homeless child youth.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be corrected. Yeah, I have no question.
Okay, under the same header of guardianship, it says who has legal or physical custody of a child youth experiencing homelessness shall enroll. That would be nice if they all enroll in the school district of Beloit, but realistically, should that say shall be able to enroll? Because right now it kind of sounds like a mandate, like if you are.
They're homeless, we have to let them in. We have to let them in, but we have to consider different. So you're saying able versus,
So, okay, let me read the whole thing and then it might make more sense. Okay, so under guardianship, for purposes of school placement, any parent, guardian, or caregiver who has legal or physical custody of a child/youth experiencing homelessness shall enroll that child/youth directly in the school district of Beloit. They could enroll them somewhere else. They don't have to enroll them with us. So would it make more sense to say shall be able to enroll? So let's say I'm in the city and I have custody, physical, legal, however, I shall enroll them here. Like, I totally agree with that. However, I think it should be shall be able to enroll them because they could choose to enroll them somewhere else, which they shouldn't.
they shouldn't. But but you also stuck with, if a kid is homeless in your district, they have legal rights to your district.
But don't they also have the right to go somewhere else if they want to? or because they're experiencing homelessness, they have to come to the school district of Beloit if they are in Beloit?
It'll come back to the courts, it'll come back to what's the best placement for the child. I mean,
So let me ask you this. If I have physical custody of a school-age student in the city of Beloit, am I able to enroll them at Beloit Turner?
Open enroll them there.
But I'm able to do it? Okay, do I have to enroll them in the school district of Beloit and nowhere else?
No, they just encourage the student, any student experiencing homelessness, to stay in the school that they were in before they started experiencing homelessness.
And see, this doesn't
Yep, I
say,
understand.
this portion doesn't speak to what was going on before I experienced homelessness.
Right.
So I think it should be, shall be able to enroll them. Does anyone object to that?
I don't object to it, I just know, how to set the reality of what we're gonna end up doing. It was just,
Yeah.
they're gonna stay with us. Well, that's what we hope.
Exactly. Okay. All right, LEA, we already transitioned, so that takes us down to comparable services. Right after each, that's gonna need to be corrected to child/youth experiencing homelessness. And that's all I've got for page 3. Moving to our last page of this policy, page 4, Board Member Schneider, any questions or edits?
Under disputes, the first sentence, if a dispute arises over eligibility school selection.
There should be a comma in between those two.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Board Member Schneider?
Other than moving
Yeah.
the language around
Okay,
child abuse.
Wait, so I have to get the corrections as well. So if a
Yep.
dispute arises,
Over eligibility, comma, school selection or enrollment in a school.
were you saying something else? Did you want to add something else to that?
No, it
Oh, you
it
just wanna
just,
add
it
comments?
was, didn't read.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Yep.
I'm sorry. I thought you was gonna change those.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
no worries. All right, let's go back to the top under transportation to the school of origin. That first line and then the third line, we're gonna need to implement that person first language. Okay, and then the last sentence, the district has the right to determine the mode of transportation to the school of origin in consultation with the parent/guardian or caregiver based on the best interest of the student. If I am an unaccompanied student,
We should probably.
do I,
add that
yeah,
language.
am I involved in that consultation?
It should probably read, or in the case of an unaccompanied child or youth, the student. Just like we did on that first page,
Okay,
first.
Just
Paragraph?
Just read exactly what we want to put in there, please.
In consultation with the parent/guardian or caregiver hang on, let me think before I read. The district has the right to determine the mode of transportation to the school of origin in consultation with the parent, guardian, or caregiver,
may I?
or in the case of.
If it, because I'm a fan of keeping it simple. So if
Yep.
we had in consultation with the parent/guardian, comma, caregiver, or unaccompanied student, if applicable,
Perfect,
based on the best interest of the student.
perfect.
If applicable.
Did you get that, Ms. Schopp?
If applicable, based on,
You said unaccompanied student, if applicable.
Yeah, or if we've been using youth, we can do, for consistency.
Sure.
Yeah, unaccompanied youth, if applicable. Okay. And then, under that, in the case where the school of origin and current resident are in different school districts, the local education liaison, no, I think we're okay with that. Do we need agency, or are we just speaking to the person, not the entity?
The person.
Okay. And then that next paragraph, if the family chooses to stay, I put a note next to it for repetitive. Do you believe that's already been handled prior in the policy, or is there a reason we want to state that again?
I think it's because it's in disputes now. So if a kid is homeless, a lot of times
Experiencing
experiences
homelessness.
homelessness, all right. If a kid is experiencing homelessness, there's just so much that goes into what we will end up having to do if they decide to want to leave as well.
Okay, so keep that under
I would
transportation.
keep it under transportation, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Because that identification follows you throughout the year regardless of if you find stable housing or not, so that transportation is available to you throughout the year
Okay,
regardless.
perfect. And then under disputes, the second paragraph, if we could just lowercase liaison so that we are consistent. Okay, and I think that's it. All right, so let me just pull up my notes. So we have reviewed policy 342, policy 342.10, and policy 342.10, Rule 1. Is there a motion to move those three policies onto the full board for first reading?
So moved.
All right, I will provide a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, that takes us to the 420 policy set. We will begin with policy 420, school admission. It's just a page and a little bit, so we won't do a page at a time. Board Member Schneider, is there anything in policy 420 that you have questions about or you feel we need to edit?
The one thing I found was on the top of page 2, the second sentence. It gives to a student during the term of his, her. We have been changing those to his/her/their.
Okay. All right. And Board Member Miller actually provided a note for this one, so I'll read that. It says, can we include gender in the non-discrimination language? Also, why was the language on the grade level placement removed? And then my note for that is that information was added to policy 420, Rule 3. So it just seems like it was shifted.
That's exactly what I have in my notes.
All right, same page. So we'll deal with her note once we get to that. Just wanted to read that into the record. At the beginning, it says the centralized enrollment office. That's the current name of the office here at Keck.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, so my note is, okay, so it says the centralized enrollment office or designee. Usually we have like a person or designee, not an office or designee. Do we want to keep that as the office, or is there a role of someone who works in that office that's generally responsible unless they designate someone else?
It's for me, it's a people with that, so we have to put more people in this conversation. That's why it's central enrollment office. It's not necessarily it doesn't go just to one person. It goes to
Yeah, there's 4 people in that office.
So then, is everyone comfortable with saying staff from central enrollment office or designee, or a designee shall verify the age?
I think that sounds
Is
great.
that okay? All right. All right, and then once we get to the last paragraph, the school district of Beloit shall not discriminate. Again, Ms. Miller wants us to include gender, which I think is appropriate. Does the administration have a preference for where it is placed? So it does not discriminate in admissions to the school, class, program, or activity or facility usage on the basis of, and then there's a list. Do you have a preference of where we include gender?
not a further Ms.
Is it okay if we put
I
it
would-
right after sex?
That's what I was just.
Okay, so sex, gender, and
Yep.
then we'll continue with
Yep,
the
I
list.
think that makes sense.
All right, and Board Member Schneider alerted us to the gender language that needs to be adjusted on the second page. Anything else for policy 420?
No.
All right, and it's not on the agenda, so it's not something we'll take action on, but just a note that Policy 420 Rules 1 and 2 are retired. Is the administration able to give an update on the status of Policy 420 Rules 4 and 5? Because we jumped from 3 to 6 in here.
Yes, we are. 4 and 5, Mrs. Shope, you can explain for 4 and 5.
So I looked back through all of my policy information and all of my updates, and I cannot find any record of a Rule 4 or Rule 5 existing, and I was able to go back to 1998, 1999 school year. And I can't find it being updated, I can't find them being deleted, because that's what we did back then, and they were never on board docs, they're not on my computer, because I keep all my files. I even went back and found the files that I first loaded on the website when I had to shorten all the titles and everything, which was on our super old website, and I found all those files, they weren't in there either, which tells me they weren't available then, so I have no idea why we went to rule number 6 over 4 and 5. I have no idea. It had to be before my time that the 4 and 5, somebody thought was there or something.
Okay. Well, thank you for your diligence in researching that. Let me ask the committee and the administration, is there interest in renaming Rule 6 to be Rule 4?
Correct, because then we'll be in order.
Or should we put a note that says 4 and 5 are phantom?
We can just, I think we can stick with our current practice, which is 4 and 5 are either retired or,
But we don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say they gone, and I don't know why they gone.
Okay, so when in doubt, always just tell the truth.
Correct.
So how about this? We know what happened to 1 and 2, they're retired. 3, we're gonna review. And then we also have 6. Is anyone opposed to renaming Rule 6 to Rule 4? And we just put that explanation.
The recommendation is going to be to delete 6, though.
That's our recommendation.
Okay.
Retired.
Just putting that out there.
So we'll retire it and the mystery lives on.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, okay, well, let's
5 is
start
gone.
with,
I don't
all
know.
right. Let's start with
6
3. Board Member Schneider. Any questions or edits for Policy 420, Rule 3, page 1?
I have none.
All right, I don't either. Same question for page 2.
Under number 7, the third sentence, again, it's procedures shall be construed so as to deny any transfer student his, her, should be his, her, their
Okay, you
rights.
said that's okay, I see it now. Number 7. All right, anything else for page 2?
That is it.
All right, let me start at the top. Under number 3, it's the third line in, placement shall be discussed with an adult student, comma, parent/legal guardian before becoming effective. What about our unaccompanied youth who are not adult students?
I would think that that would be okay language to add.
Okay. So can we just slide it in with placement shall be discussed with an adult student, comma, unaccompanied student, comma, parent/legal guardian?
Yep.
And we don't need to worry about caregivers? Not worry about, but we don't need to include?
I don't think so.
Okay. Ms. Shope, did you get that? Yes. All right. And then if we move down to 5, the probationary period, so the second half says, if a reviewed placement, well, let me read the first just so it makes sense. Okay. Students placed under these procedures shall be subject to a probationary period of 30 days to determine whether the original placement was in the best interest of the student. If a reviewed placement is deemed necessary to the best interest of the student by the principal or designee, the principal or designee shall make such placement within 15 school days after the probationary period ends. So I got a couple questions. What is a reviewed placement? Because that leads me to believe that not all placements are reviewed, but some are. So I'm just trying to understand the distinction. So if a reviewed placement is deemed necessary. So if we could start with what is that?
So I go back to the thought of the title of the policy is thinking about procedures for placement of transfer students.
Yep.
So if a student is, again, this is just thinking, if a student is transferring in.
And we
or
place them somewhere.
Place for them somewhere.
Yep.
That's us having to review.
Well, it's probationary for 30 days. So a student comes in and we place them at Merrill. And it's a 30-day probationary period to determine if that's a good fit for the student, right? But then it says if a reviewed placement is deemed necessary.
I think, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're
I thought you-
fine.
I
Group
think
effort.
what that's saying is if within those 30 days, let me find my words. Somebody's reviewing that placement within 30 days, because then what it's saying is, if this placement has been reviewed and deemed necessary to the best interest of the student, the principal shall make the placement change, right?
15 days after the
After.
30-day probationary
Yep.
period ends. So my question, I guess a reviewed placement is any placement that's reviewed. Is that accurate, or am I missing
Yeah.
something?
That's how I look at it.
All right, my next question, do parents, guardians, or unaccompanied youth have a say in the placement review? So can a parent come to you and say, hey, I don't think this is the best fit for my child? Because right now it just says the principal will determine basically if it needs to be reviewed and if an alternative placement needs to happen, and they'll do that within 15 days after the probationary period ends.
Yes, that happens. Parents will say that, yes.
Okay, so I want to work that in so parents are clear that they have the ability to do that. And then my last question, are all placements reviewed after that 30-day probationary period?
I don't know. I can't say all.
There's not a system set up to review
All right.
transfer placement. Every single incoming transfer student after 30 days, no.
Okay, so I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, if things seem to be going well, there's no review. We only review if there appears to be a concern.
Correct.
Okay, then I just want to make sure it's clear in the language.
Yes.
That a parent, a guardian, or an unaccompanied youth could request that review of placement.
Correct.
Is everyone okay with that?
They can request that.
Okay, so,
But it's not going to change the all pieces. If you do the all, we can't.
no, two separate issues. So I'm not proposing that all placements be reviewed. If it's going well and everybody's good, that's fine. But it says if a reviewed placement is deemed necessary. So that leads me to believe that something's not quite right. To the best interest of the student. See, right now it says principal or designee. So if a reviewed placement is deemed necessary to the best interest of the student by the principal or designee, or requested by the parent, guardian, or unaccompanied youth, the principal or designee shall make such placement,
Within 15.
yeah, or I guess shall review and change placement if necessary within 15 school days after the probationary period ends. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Because it might, you're right. Okay, so
I think that sounds good.
let's see if we can repeat that. Okay, if a reviewed placement is deemed necessary to the best interest of the student by the principal or designee, or requested by the parent/guardian or unaccompanied youth, the principal or designee shall review and may change placement within 15 school days after the probationary period ends. Is everybody on board with that?
Absolutely.
Youth, the principal or designee, or unaccompanied youth, the principal or designee, that's why.
You missed it. Okay, everybody's fine. Okay, if a reviewed placement is deemed necessary to the best interest of the student by the principal or designee, or requested by the parent/guardian or unaccompanied youth. The principal or designee will review and may change placement within 15 school days after the probationary period. So if someone makes the request, they'll do a review. That's guaranteed, but it's not guaranteeing that the placement will change. So the placement may change.
I agree now. Yes, ma'am.
Everybody on the same page? Ms. Shope, do I need to repeat anything?
No, but I have one question.
Please.
Should it be in the best interest of the student?
I support that
Just every time you read it, it seemed awkward.
because I'm reading what's on the page. But I'm fine with that. Everybody, any objections? All right, please make the change. All right, next under transfer of credit. Okay, so I have a question. So that last sentence, so these are the set context, these are students that are transferring in. Grades and grade point averages will not be used in class standing. So if I'm a stellar student and I transfer in, I can't be considered in like class standing with ranking. I can't believe we haven't gotten pushback on that.
Because what's hard is every district is different.
I get it, but I'm amazing, and I come to your district, and you're like, tough luck.
That's tough because I don't.
Is
I
that
don't
what we
support
want
it.
that to
No.
say?
I understand what you're saying. I don't, it's hard because every school district.
I
has
get
different-
it.
So when they come to us, and it may not be the same as when we go to them.
So we don't have, and I get this because I used to do admissions. We had a scale, and it wasn't perfect, but normalized. Some people are on a 5-point scale, some people are on a 4-point scale, to normalize that, because I can't believe someone hasn't lost their mind over that sentence. Not that I'm encouraging that, but I can't believe that has not happened. You get a superstar student that transfers in, and you're out of luck as far as class standing. Is that what we want that to say? Or are we allowing it to say that because we don't know how to fix it?
Well, I think two things. Well, if our students leave from us and go somewhere else,
Yep,
then we run.
that's
into-
not okay, but we don't control that. We do control this.
I know, but I think we're in the same boat as everybody else when it comes to this, unfortunately.
But we're amazing. We can figure out anything.
That's true. I'm not dissing. I think what you're saying has merit, but I also understand. I also understand the reality of what we're working in. That a lot of students come to us from all different places with different standards that oftentimes.
I
don't
think we
align
can
with ours.
develop a tool to normalize that.
Is it in this policy?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Like, the tool to normalize it is not in this policy, but the thing that says you're out of luck is in this policy. I think we can do better. What do you think, Board Member Schneider?
If that's the charge, we have to work on it. I mean, as a board,
No, as an administration.
In other districts that I have worked, they did have a way to convert different different scales, whether it's 4
Yeah.
or 5, to the current standing within the district.
I don't want an academic all-star to be penalized because they're coming to join our amazing district. That just feels very incongruent to me. And I know our administration can get it done. So I am in favor of striking that last sentence.
I agree.
All right, strike it, Ms. Shope. All right, under other, okay, this didn't make sense to me. Transfer students who had been granted early admission in another school district will be given consideration based on the previous performance and local criteria. I have no idea what that means.
So early admission is early admission to 4K.
Wait,
Yep.
okay, I think early admission in like the college context, like you got early admission, but there's early admission to Fork, isn't that 3K?
Well, yes, but we don't have 3K in every single school building. So we don't have space for every single 3-year-old student.
Okay, and this is for my benefit, not that you didn't explain it well, but I still don't get it. So let me read it again, and then I need you to make it make sense. Transfer students who had been granted early admission in another school district will be given consideration based on previous performance and local criteria. So if you're saying that applies to early admission to 4K, they don't have previous performance.
Well, what
3-year-olds?
it's saying is if they've been granted,
Information as pertains to students who may already have IPs or on the spectrum per se,
Okay.
so it,
given consideration for early enrollment.
So let me ask this. Does that line apply to anyone other than 4K students?
the way I read it, it's 4K. And the other thing I just wanted to point out, it says have been granted early admission in another school district. So we're looking on their performance in that other school district because we have strict criteria whether or not you are granted early admission into.
So let me ask you this. So a 4Ker is a 4-year-old human,
Correct.
correct? So if they were granted early admission in another school district based on previous performance, that means they were in 3K somewhere?
Not necessarily. Like, we have criteria that they have to meet in order to be granted early admission. So that's how I read that. You've gone through the process, you've been granted early admission, and then you've been going to school. So there's performance-based information you should have, right, from the previous school.
Okay, if this only applies to 4K, can we specify that?
Well, that's how I read it. Does anybody?
I have no idea. I did.
I don't know where else you would be early admitted.
Okay, so can we say 4K transfer students who have been granted early admission in another school district? Is everyone on, one, is that the spirit of what we mean for the policy to say?
So I agree with you this one.
Okay,
But going back to Missy's thing, now if that's something different, I ain't never knew it would be different. I have not learned it to be different.
all right, so unless someone objects, we're gonna start that with 4K
4K.
transfer students.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to be considered starting early in another district for 5-year-old kindergarten if they don't have 4K?
That's what I did. Side note. At Converse.
I mean, there's early admissions, yes, before compulsory school age, yes.
So to just say 4K, we have to say 4K or 5K, right?
But if it was 5K, they wouldn't need consideration because they just come to 4K. Right.
Unless their birthday is before the
September
cutoff
1st?
date.
Is
right?
it still
Or-
September
Or after
1st?
the cutoff date, I should say. So if their birthday
September 7th. and then-
September 7th and they've
That's
been
my
granted
daughter's.
to come in, that's early enrollment.
Okay, we are off the tracks. But everybody's okay. All right, let's stay focused. Okay, if we put 4K, okay, to your point, if early admission somewhere else means 5K, that's like moot with us because you can just come to 4K and you don't even need this policy. Right? Greg, right?
Correct.
Okay, now you said something about a date, like your birth date. Is how does that?
That's based off, I'm sorry, Mrs.
We're team effort.
Right. So if their birthday is September 7th and they've been granted permission to start the school year,
Start 4K.
start kindergarten, if their 5th birthday is September 7th, it's
Yep.
after the cutoff date for that year. So traditionally, you would have to wait till the following year to begin kindergarten.
You could just do 4K here then.
But if they're enrolled in kindergarten in the other school district,
Oh.
then the consideration would be to be enrolled in kindergarten in this district.
Is that how it works?
Because they are they're transferring as a kindergarten.
We enroll based on age. We do have an early admission policy too.
Okay, so hold on. Can a 4-year-old come here and start kindergarten, or would I have to do 4K?
If you have student records that show that you're in 4K or in 5K and you're 4,
Will I have been granted early admission to 5K, but I'm 4 somewhere else?
so then we would follow what this says. We would, because you've been granted it in another district, so we would give consideration to that and look at your previous performance in that district, and we would have the ability to look at our criteria and make a decision whether or not you would go in 4K or 5K.
So should it say 4K and 5K transfer students?
Sure.
Does that cover everything we've
Right.
discussed? Everybody good? Right.
And I think that's what we kind of lost.
So what do you recommend?
I think we should stop it at 4K, because 5K to me has a lot more. You could all, like, in our district, you can go to 4K, but 5K, you can also start school based off the time.
What do you want policy to say up here?
Right now, I'm still at 4K, but you can take it off.
No, 4K. You want to go with 4K?
I want to say 4K.
Okay, and if you have the situation that you're describing, we're gonna figure that out offline.
Because we
Correct,
can look at the early admission policy. The early admission policy.
But what Greg is saying, I'm a 4-year-old that has been granted, are you going to explain? No, he's in the way, you go there. Excuse me, everyone.
I understand what you're saying.
But he's saying I'm a 4-year-old who's been granted access to kindergarten in a different district, but I wanna come here and be in kindergarten, I don't wanna be in 4K.
That's fine. We would have to look at your transcripts, your information, your grades, a lot of different factors, and then determine, what you better fit for 5K. Like you're asking for, what, you better fit for our 4K program based off of.
Maybe we place you in the 5K and then in that probationary period, we review your placement. Just saying.
I support that. All right, we're leaving it at 4K. We're gonna move on to policy 420 rule
Can-
6.
Can I just add one thing? I do believe that cross-reference should add 420 school admissions, because but maybe not. I do,
It will not hurt, Michelle, can we add that? Policy 420, we cross-reference with policy 420 rule 3.
because we cut that whole, remember that part was struck and, yep.
All right, okay, and it looks like everything that was in policy 420. Mic is off. Apologize. It looks like everything that was in policy 420 rule 6 has been captured under policy 342.1 rule 1, which we've already reviewed. So Board Member Schneider, are you okay with retiring policy 420 rule 6?
I am comfortable with that.
All right. Okay, so that brings us to the end of that set. Is there a motion to move on policy 420, school admission, policy 420, rule 3, procedures for placement of transfer students? Let me ask a question. Yeah, we still need to approve the retirement. So also policy 420, rule 6 to be retired, to move those 3 policies on to the full board for a first reading and retirement.
So moved.
I will provide a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. All right, now here's the issue. We find ourselves at 6:39. We are going to adjourn in 5 minutes so we can transition to the next meeting. I would assume we don't want to start the next policy, but we want to get as far as we can in 5 minutes. So here's the thing, usually we move them along together. If we only get 751, are you okay with just moving that one forward? Or is there,
So, so 751 is tied to 751 Rule 1, and that's the hard part about it.
yeah,
Because the other stuff, 751, but that one, changing from July to August, that's when, there's a lot of stuff in 751.
so how about this? We may need, and it pains me to say it, but we may need a special meeting for policy later this month. Would that help you accomplish what you need to before the start of the school year?
We have to do it before the start of the school year.
Okay.
Of course, we would have time in September, but,
But then it has to go to the board for a first reading and a second reading, so that's really gonna put us at October, or well, the end of September. Are you okay with asking Ms. Shope to poll the committee to see if we have, we can coordinate our schedules to get a special meeting later this month?
and we would just take care of the 751.
We would take care of, the remaining policies on this agenda. And then we have a plan laid out for September and October to come back and get the remaining policies that fill out the sets for what we've already reviewed. Does that work?
We would have to have another meeting, correct?
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to table the remainder of our agenda for this meeting with the understanding that Ms. Shope will coordinate with our superintendent and the policy committee for a special policy meeting before the end of August?
So moved.
All right, I will provide a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion passes unanimously. I was going to read our next meeting being our September date, but it looks like we will have a date to be determined prior to that, so we'll let that lie for a moment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Great work, team.